We make a start. It says 12:30 on the clock. I have to start by reading out this statement. I am obliged to inform you that this meeting is being videoed. Members of the public are entitled to record the proceedings and are requested to give prior notice so that any additional measures that may assist can be put into place. Any member of the public who has any concerns should raise them now. Thank you. We move along. Item 1 is apologies for absence, but I think we've got it pretty well for the house. Item 2, disclosable pecuniary interests. No, nobody seems to be shouting. Item 3, minutes, and we did have them in a separate package, so the minutes are here. Is everyone happy with the minutes? Yeah. Right, okay. Right, accept those. Item 4, public question time. There are no public questions. Item 5, member questions. There are no member questions. Item 6, scrutiny items. There are no scrutiny items, so we go to item 7, local transport plan. Councillor Steve Davenport.
Okay, this is a fairly easy one. This is to launch the consultation, which is going to be over a period of 12 months. And it's best summed up on agenda item 7 of 1.5. It's proposed that the LTP span from 2018 to 2028. This LTP will assist focusing on thinking on the infrastructure for transport, how this is facilitated, delivered and located. A document to demonstrate the strong links with council agendas and economic growth, planning, air quality, health, and this means whether it's walking, cycling, it's everything to do with transport. The document acts as an evidence base and a facilitation document across the individual and collective disciplines. Everything. It's a legal document, so we've got to do it. And to have this document, it does assist us to go for external funding in the future for anything to do with transport, planes, trains, also we really walking and cycling. So I'm putting this to the Cabinet to approve this consultation, which will be, and then we come back to Cabinet in 12 months' time for approval.
Okay, so that's been moved by Councillor Steve Davenport. The recommendations are on page 2. I'm quite happy to second it. I think it's a pretty straightforward document, but any comments? No? So everyone supports the document then? Okay, thank you. So item 8, parking strategy, public consultation results. So
That's right. Okay.
That's you again, yeah?
Isn't it? Right. As you all know, this strategy was approved by Cabinet to go undertake consultation. It's probably been the largest consultation we've had in many years, with 2,500 responses, with 22,000 single line responses. And, it's taken rather a long time for the officers to go through. I have myself and officers have been around the county speaking to various councils, parish council. It was 5 years out today, so it needed doing. We've listened. I did say right from the start it was a consultation, and we really have. It's taken a bit of time to come back to Cabinet because we have listened, because we have changed. And I just really wanted to bits out. It's a weighty document, so I'm not going to go through it. You'll be pleased to know. But under the new council's parking strategy, there will be a set price per hour depending on the car park band, making charges simpler and easier to understand. We talked about dropping the pop and shop, which we've listened to, and it will retain it down to 15 minutes. Actually, when we went round the towns and parishes, a lot of people didn't even know we had it in the first place, so we actually put that back on the table. Free parking Sundays, bank holidays in for bands 4, 5 and 6 car parks, free parking After 6 p.m. now, and not 8, which was proposed in bands 3, 4, 5 and 6 car parks, other than Frankwell in Shrewsbury. An 8-hour cap on 4, 5 and 6 car parks, plus Raven Meadows in Shrewsbury. No more short stay parking. You can stay in all the car parks for as long as you want, as long as you pay. Free coach parking. New parking machine will allow payment from cards, and there's an app now that we can have to on your mobile phones. Review park and ride services. This is a big one in Shrewsbury, Ludlow and Bridgenorth, and I think there's a lot of mileage in this for the future to be looked at. This is going to be done separately, as I think as we move forward into the future, we should be looking at this in a different way. Trial and checks software to exit car parks. We are going to trial barriers and so pay on exit and improve car parks layouts and services. And this is to provide good quality parking in the county. We have to pay for it, of course we do. The money raised from these car parks has to go back into car park highways in general. But it is to improve what we have and keep the quality of what we have for the foreseeable future. We have had feed-in from people like Oxford Street Bed who welcome these proposals. Clearly, there was a lot of discussions to start with, but we are where we are now, and it is working well. So, questions?
Right. Well, we start. One or two members of council have asked to speak, so I'll start with the general. David Turner, I know, has asked to speak. Chris Mellon's asked to speak, but I can't see him around.
He may be delayed, he was at another meeting, Chairman, maybe on his way.
Okay.
Thank you, Leader. I encourage people to take part in consultations because they can make a difference, and this has certainly been the case in the past, but despite Steve saying you listened, I think we can see where a number of views commanding widespread support have either been ignored or have been studied and a contrary approach has been adopted. My view is that the approach in this proposal has been largely Shrewsbury-centric. I understand that Shrewsbury is the biggest prize, but it shouldn't be at the expense of the smaller market towns where charging applies. I think it shows little understanding of the need for cars in towns in rural areas where limited or no public transport, no park and ride, and small populations that don't sustain competitive or viable taxi services. Thus a large portion of shoppers, workers and residents have to rely upon cars. It does strike me that despite 30 plus responses coming from Much Wenlock, and that number was taken before the consultation was closed, and from the town council and from me, the views have been, or appear to have been, ignored. And I make no apologies for being parochial here. The sustainability of my town depends on visitors to it. Much Wenlock shops, cafes, pubs and restaurants cannot survive on those who are within walking distance. With poor public transport, no viable taxi service, and folk living in surrounding settlements such as Bilderus, Cressidge, Harley, Church Green, Hewley, etc., all of which regard Wenlock as their convenient shopping location, this destination. They have to use the private car to reach the town. Of course, many will use other centres as well. The major supermarkets within easy reach all have free parking, and neighbouring Broseley also has free off-street parking. I understand that a large part of the proposal is about generating more income for the council's hard-pressed coffers, and I'm fully supportive of that in the round. I don't need to go into detail here because it's all in the submissions that have been made. The portfolio holder is well aware of my concerns about empty car parks and vehicles parked on street, on footways, on verges. Putting charges up in empty or nearly empty car parks such as Falcons Court will make the council no more money, possibly less. Surely reducing the charge in a car park that is grossly underutilised will encourage greater use, generate more economic activity in the town and create more income for Shropshire Council. As regards season tickets, a Freedom of Information request in May 2017 revealed that only 4 season tickets had been purchased in Much Wenlock in the past 3 years. Surely pricing them at a level which is attractive to motorists will generate thousands of pounds rather than the hundreds that are being raised at the moment. Whilst I recognise that season ticket parking is available at about £200 in Much Wenlock, it's not in the right place. It's on the wrong side of the A4169. What we need is car parking, season ticket car parking when the car parks are empty, in the centre of the town. So what might be right in Market Drayton or Whitchurch or other places isn't necessarily right for Much Waymark, and I think it'd be far better if a holistic approach had been taken in each town, sensible pricing, good signage for both motorists and pedestrians, so that drivers can identify the best route for parking, so that shoppers can navigate the best route on foot. This will generate more income for Shropshire Council, we can get cars off the street, and it'll make for a more vibrant local economy. I'd urge you to take the proposal off the table and rethink it, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Chris Mellins, I did. Yes. Chris. Now,
Apologies, I'm grateful to Dane for filibustering for me.
well, I don't think he put it quite like that.
Quite.
No offence taken.
Yeah. Apologies for being late. I detained at another meeting. Thank you, Rita, for allowing me the opportunity just to say a few words to Cabinet. Hopefully, Cabinet will have seen the email I sent this morning, which was a copy of the comments that I'd submitted as part of the consultation process. I suspect I would agree with most of the comments that I heard David making in regards to my own town. And I suppose the key message I would emphasise, and I hope that to a degree the strategy recognises that, is that one size doesn't fit all. Whilst as regards the banding and proposals for my community seem very limited, it's not so much the amount that has always been the issue of concern, it's been the principle. North Shropshire didn't see the introduction of car parking charges until 2011. Previously, although it had been debated by the then District Council, it chose not to roll them out. So having been used to free parking, this was quite a fundamental change and has had quite a big impact. The strategy sets out that one of the key aims is to improve the vibrancy and stimulate economic regeneration of our market towns, which I think is a principle that everybody would sign up to. But as regards my own community, we feel that that will not be the case with the new strategy. Quite the reverse, it will actually suck money out of the local economy. And our problem, or our challenge, rather than a problem perhaps necessarily, is our relative proximity to Shrewsbury, particularly the north of the town. And those who obviously know the town well will know that you've got the large supermarket and various other retail outlets that all have the benefit of free parking. It's 10 minutes, quarter of an hour away from Wem. So even though parking charges are relatively low, people vote with their feet. So it does draw people away. Wem is largely a commuter town these days as well. So if people are elsewhere, then they will tend to shop elsewhere to a degree. Obviously, the retail offer is not the only part of the equation. Obviously, people locally, there are local services and facilities. Have a very successful town hall, which has a nighttime economy. I know the proposal is to withdraw a little bit on the sort of the evenings and also Sundays. But the fundamental comes to the issue about the banding itself. And it would be quite easy to say, no, don't agree with it, don't implement it. So my constituency have tried to work within the framework that the banding methodology is set. And actually, if you look at as regards Wem, it's possible to come up with a band that suggests that actually, instead of being in band 6, actually Wem should be in band 7, which effectively is free car parking. So essentially I was asked as part of my response, and supported by the town council strongly as well, is to review the methodology and the assessment for Wem, to look at whether in fact it should be placed in band 7 rather than band 6. Then we also need to look at a little bit of the wider context that for some purposes Wem is treated as a small town, so in terms of the youth proposals, for example, we stand to lose funding. Decisions by previous principal authorities have meant that we've lost our swimming pool, our toilets are now maintained locally, which to a degree locally we're happy to do, but obviously that's had an impact. And we have one of the largest Bandy council taxes in the county, about 5th or 6th highest. Our Bandy account is £151. That's quite a sizable chunk of local taxation, but we're able to provide those services. So I think we have done our bit, as it were, and it's felt that this is just if it's designed to try and improve the local economy, etc., 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 these proposals, as far as we're concerned, don't deliver. So, having said all that, I apologise for withering on. What I'm asking Cabinet to do is to reassess the methodology as far as rent is concerned. I want to see whether, in fact, it should be in band 7 and not in band 6.
Okay.
Thank you,
Right,
Linda.
got that. David Minnery next, and then we'll come there.
Yes, thank you, Peter. I just wanted really to paint a little bit of a different picture. Certainly, my experience in market trading is not the experience that I just heard from the other two members. I wanted just to go on record to publicly thank the portfolio holder and the officers for the way in which they've responded to the concerns that have been articulated in market trading and by the local members in particular, and to say that I'm entirely satisfied with the outcome as far as market trading is concerned. And I don't think that it has been a Shrewsbury-centric approach. It may have seemed that way in the beginning. I think a lot of people said they thought that way at the beginning, but I certainly don't believe that the final article is Shrewsbury-centric. I think the portfolio holder and officers have listened to the arguments that have been put forward from across the county. But so my experience, our experience in market trading, has not been one that gives me cause for concern. In fact, I can only praise and thank the concern for coming up with the final decisions that they're making, recommendations that they're making today.
Okay, thank you. I'll do Roger Evans next, and then Alan. And I'm sure we'll hear a different view of Shrewsbury, that they aren't being treated specially, but anyway, we'll hear in a minute. Right, Roger.
Thank you, Chairman. Let's be honest, this strategy has been fiddled with and fiddled with and fiddled with. I understand there was a number of briefings set up for the media, and every one of them had to be cancelled because the strategy had to be altered, had to look at what was being requested by certain members from certain market towns and elsewhere in order to get it through and to get political support for it. I noticed one word is missing from it, especially that was in the original one that was down, and the justification for it, pollution. I haven't heard that mentioned once as the reason why we were going to try and encourage cars not to come into the town and get the footfall in because of the pollution and the air quality. Not one word of it. All we've heard is raising income. It shows to me that this council is desperate. And if we look at the pillars, innovate. There's no innovation here at all. Raising income, oh yes, all the way through. How is it going to affect the viability of all our market towns? Economic strategy out of the window. We need the income from cars to do it. Park and ride, hardly mentioned, and it says that it will be looked at. And then I read in the press late last week that we're going to alter the park and ride, and that is 3 years. Is it about 3 years since the Conservative administration said, oh, the park and ride, it isn't cost effective, we will reduce the number of buses. Now suddenly, in Shrewsbury, going to increase the number of buses. Are they going to park all at the hospital? Yes, it is needed, but I wonder what a Reaver's view will be. Park and ride, rapid transit, not in competition with the other buses, so therefore we can do what we want to with it, it's our service. But a Reaver, I would think, will have quite a few comments if one can access the hospital in Shrewsbury from a bus in the centre of Shrewsbury for 60p or even £1.80, whatever the charge you want to do. What comes first? What comes together? Parking and the buses together? I noticed that in the RTP, buses are mentioned in that, and it's going to form part of it. How we're going to tackle it with the new Transport Act that's come through and be able to be more flexible. Why isn't that incorporated in this? Let's think outside the box and think what we can do to improve our towns, improve Shrewsbury, improve the whole shopping experience. Let people come into Shropshire, to come into our area to shop and to spend time and to visit, rather than that place to the east. Where I live, I've taken around the parish councils and I've listened to the views, and I've had emails not understanding it and telling me, oh, I know where I'm going to go shopping now. And we can all guess where that is, and it won't be Shrewsbury. It will affect the viability. Good quality car parking, heard that. I was the councillor for the town centre for 4 years, and we were trying to think outside the box then. We were looking at good quality parking then, and that is over 10, 12 years ago. We're going to improve the lighting so that females and vulnerable people felt that they could park in Shrewsbury safely, could walk back to the car parks at 11 o'clock at night, and be good lighting, could be seen by CCTV, could be used. Would anybody want to use our multi-storey car park at 1 o'clock in the morning? I would think it's only particular type of people who want to do it, to be able to walk through there. It does not feel a safe place to me. Good quality parking, I'm not sure when that comes. It's a chicken and egg, horse and cart. What we're doing is raising income to satisfy the requirements of this council. £500,000, £400,000 to raise. It was going to raise 2 million. It seems to be very, very different now to what it is. And as I say, pollution doesn't seem to get a mention now, and that seems strange.
I have to say the income is less, and that's because we've listened in the public consultation. The other thing I would like to say, I regret any comments you've made about Shrewsbury Town at night. Shrewsbury Town Centre in the evening is a very, very safe place, and I think your comments were wrong to suggest anything other than that. The town centre in Shrewsbury is extremely safe in the evenings for women, for everybody, and I think you should withdraw those comments.
Can I add, and this is parking enforcement, and I notice about the parking enforcement and the mention about going around the market towns, and then next year there's £100,000 being taken out of parking enforcement saving. Living in a rural area, some of my areas want parking enforcement to be carried out, and we cannot, parish councils cannot get parking enforcement people out into their areas because they say that they can't come, it isn't effective, whatever. But
I'm trying to think where in your area there are any places where civil
in Ford, there is yellow lines there outside the school where you try and pull off the main Shrewsbury to Welshpool Road at certain times of the day. It is well known that there is a parking problem there, and people cannot get off the Welshpool Road into Ford because of it. Buses can't get out. We've tried, the school has tried, the parish council have tried to get parking enforcement out there. They've come out and said, oh, there's no problem. Yes, there flipping well is. And I'm no doubt there are other places.
Alan?
Let me say that I do agree with you about Shrewsbury Town Centre at night and the car parking, in that I've never felt intimidated in any way. Might be different about 4 o'clock in the morning.
I'm never out at 4 o'clock.
Nor am I, but I think it is a safe place it is a safe place to walk around in the evening, and lots of people of all sorts, of all types, do use the town centre successfully. And I do think it's unfortunate Roger said that. And I'd also just like to also agree with you, counter the view that this report is Shrewsbury centred. It isn't. And if you look at many of the changes in there, the most significant ones in terms of pricing and heights in prices do relate to car parks in Shrewsbury. So, for example, as I understand it, the current charge for an hour's on-street parking in Shrewsbury is £1.80. It's going to be £2.50 under these proposals. Could I just ask, what is the difference in the income between the previous report and this report? This is a question.
Which one do you call
Which
the previous
report?
one? Which one that...
Well, the pre and post consultation.
Oh, the report that came to Cabinet initially?
Of 2 million.
Yeah. Well, that included evening charges in the other market towns. It which has been withdrawn, and there has been some adjusting to banding.
Absolutely. I mean, again, I'll just reiterate, we have listened. That's why the funding or the amount of money we're going to collect is going to be less, because we have listened, because we have brought prices down. And particularly, I'm talking about Shrewsbury here, but the market, the on-street parking of £2.50 is sad. We don't want on-street parking in Shrewsbury. Long term, I really do want to push the parking line to be a good experience, a better experience, not only for the hospitals but the town centre, and for actual to reduce emissions in the town. You've said it's not been mentioned, but it has been talked about. But we have listened, and going forward, as traffic is increasing everywhere, in every town, market town, we've got to get this traffic out of the town somehow, and I am certainly going to be working on that.
Well, it's interesting that there is a section in here that talks about getting rid of on-street parking. That's not been the subject of consultation. I'm sure that would be particularly controversial if that came to pass, and there are other things that are hidden away. Yeah. But I just asked that question about income because looking at page 12, there's a paragraph there which says implementation of part 1 of the proposed new parking strategy framework has the potential to generate a surplus. And we know from the financial strategy that you're predicting a surplus of £900,000. However, the impact on usage levels and user parking habits will change with the proposal, and it is difficult to estimate at this stage. What's that mean?
Well, it still is.
It means you haven't got a clue what's going to happen.
You have no idea who's going to park. Actually,
No idea.
Of course you have no idea how many people are going to park, what effect it's going to have yearly. So that is an indicative figure. It might be more, it might be less, but I think it'll be around about £1 million.
Hang on, let's ask one of the officers involved. George.
So, in terms of on-street car parking, you're right, Alan, to say what the current charges are. They've been those charges since 2011. So they haven't actually gone up since 2011 in terms of a price. We are trying to encourage a behaviour change. On-street parking will remain. There is a need for on-street parking, but as Councillor Davenport has said, what we want to do is encourage more people to park in our off-street car parks, and I'll talk specifically for Shrewsbury, because obviously that's where on-street charging is, and to encourage people to have a choice as to where they park, and that's why there's a price differentiation with regards to the car parks in and around the River Loop of Shrewsbury. In terms of the comments that are made in the financial section, because we want to encourage a behavioural change, we recognise that probably some people at the moment who may be parking on street will now choose to park in one of our off-street car parks. And some of those people that are currently parking in some of our off-street car parks, for example, in the centre of town, because we want to encourage less congestion, so congestion is mentioned in the Cabinet report, as is the word pollution as well. Because we want to encourage, we still want people to access the town centre, but where possible, to be able to walk from a convenient car park, whether that's St Julian's, Abbey or Frankwell. We price those accordingly to encourage that behaviour change. But until we see the first full year of activity, it's difficult to predict with certainty what that differentiation will be.
Okay, does that help?
It helps because it shows that there is uncertainty, that there's not the improper or inappropriate modelling mechanism imposed on this, so we don't know what the income is going to come, and more importantly, we don't fully understand the impact that this is going to have on the number of people visiting Shrewsbury and the number of residents who currently use the town, currently commute to the town, will stop doing so. We don't know what the economic impact is going to be. Now, one of the things about Shrewsbury is that being centric is that in most documents nowadays, it's seen as a driver for economic growth and development, not just in the town itself and the hinterland, but throughout the county. And there are many who believe that this significant hike in charges will deter visitors to the town and will impact negatively on economic growth and development. And when we look at the financial strategy, there are also other highway transport related elements that are further going to deter people from travelling around and visiting Shrewsbury. For example, we've got a massive cut in highways maintenance of £5 million.
Can we stick to this report?
Well, I think it's relevant, Peter, because this report is all about trying to improve access to Shrewsbury and trying to develop economic growth and opportunities. I'm saying that it will have exactly the opposite impact, and there's other things that are happening in the council that are part and parcel of highways and transport will also have a negative impact. So the £5 million in highways maintenance is going to detract from the attractions of the county and people visiting it. The reduction in bus subsidies, which are in the financial strategy, is also negative in terms of the attraction. The cut in concession fares, which presumably is going to follow the review of that, is negative, and clearly, clearly, the hike in parking charges is going to have a negative impact on economic growth. So, although it's been there have been changes, everybody has to welcome it. I didn't know that Oswestry had a bid. I've Oswestry got a bid, as you mentioned.
Yeah, no, I meant to Shrewsbury actually.
Oh, you said Oswestry.
Oswestry.
I know you were a bit Oswestry centric.
Oswestry
well,
in the process of setting on that.
Oswestry bid, yeah.
Well, it's a bit.
We had plenty of discussions with Sam.
Yeah, well, I was a bit disappointed to see that bids seem to have lain on the back.
Well, we tickle them in the right places.
Sorry?
We tickle them in the right places.
Yeah, well, you must do to get that very positive response to very minor changes and improvements. Well,
can I just pick up on one thing? A visitor to Shrewsbury now, parking in Frankwell, has to pay, I think it's £4 for a day's parking. You go to the machine, you're expected to put £4 in. If they come to Shrewsbury and they pay for 4 hours parking in the future, it'll be £2.80. So that will be a reduced cost for visitors to the town. So there is no way that this can be interpreted as putting visitors to the town off. This will actually make it cheaper for visitors to come to Shrewsbury.
Can I just also say this is a positive rebalancing to supply good quality parking. If it wasn't to raise money, we would have gone out to a national parking company, which would have raised a lot more and made a lot of people unhappy. So we've done it in the best way we possibly can for the foreseeable future.
I can understand raising the charges moderately in order to pay for certain improvements in car parking, because we need that, and greater flexibility and customer service in terms of those people who want to park there. This is a substantial hike, £1 million, and it's predominantly falling on Shrewsbury, I would think, which is supposed to be the economic driver. It will deter people. Could I also just say that you just previous item was about the local transport plan. Why didn't you just wait a year so that you could develop a local transport plan which incorporated these sort of changes in parking throughout the county? Why didn't you rush forward? Wouldn't that be a better way of doing it rather than doing it piecemeal, and have a proper integrated plan for highways, parking and transport for the county that was fully consulted as an integrated plan? But that's just by the by. I have just a question on page 15. In that paragraph above the table, it does use information from the consultation, and it uses an example of how the confidence interval works. And it does say that, for example, looking at the first proposal in our survey, shown in table 2 below, 22% of responding people said no, they did not agree with the proposal to introduce linear parking. 22%. In actual fact, the table shows 78% didn't agree. So I just question the efficacy of the way of some of the analysis in here and how it's been written. And I'm surprised that wasn't picked up by the portfolio holder when he read it last night.
I want to move the debate on if
yeah, no one will changed the view that parking is seen as a cash cow, and particularly parking in Shrewsbury is seen as a cash cow for this council. It will have a derogatory effect on economic growth and development and the prosperity of our town centres.
I don't actually accept that. As I said before, visitors to the town using Franco car park will find they get a much better deal than they have in the past. What I would say, because I'm sure I should tell you all this, this is a policy document. If we agree this policy document, individual TROs have to go out for each car park, so people will have a further opportunity to respond, and there will be possibly the opportunity then to take on board future comments. So what I'm hoping is, as a Cabinet, we'll agree the policy document, which then sets the TROs going out on the individual car parks, and then we'll see what the response then is. But I want to move the debate on to something slightly different. Right, yeah, just let me finish. I think with car parking, it's partly about how much it is, but it's also partly about how easy it is to pay. And what we haven't talked about here much this morning, and I know Councillor Davenport's into this, what we're trying to do is bring in a huge different range of options of how you actually pay for car parking, you know, whether it be by card or I'm not good with my mobile phone, but I believe you can have an app that you download that you can pay for car parking in advance. We're going to have number plate recognition on the bigger car parks, and there's a range of options. And I'm quite interested in following this line-up because I believe it's just as important how people pay as what they pay. Because if you make it simple, people are easier. I have to say, when the new machines first came in, I spent about 5 or 10 minutes stood in front of one trying to figure out how to use it. Now, my daughter came along and just went, "You silly man, you just press that button there and it's easy." But, you know, I'm old and she's young and she's into digital far more than I am. So I think making the machines and making the different options for paying easy are part of what we need to be looking at in far more detail.
And you can use the old-fashioned way of putting cash in as well.
Well, that's good, because that'll always help me.
That's right. I mean, with the app you mentioned, you can actually pay for the car park before you get there, so you don't have to do anything other than that. But I just want to. Early on, Roger said something about we were having press briefings, and I heard this from the press too. But in actual fact, there was a lot of consultation here, a lot of single line comments, and everyone had to go through legal. And it wasn't anything to do with, as had been mentioned to me, with officers on members actually not agreeing. And in fact, we've agreed more or less all the way along. So actually, that wasn't the case. It was getting this to legal.
Right. Roger wants to come back, and Alan, can you turn your mic off?
If I can, Chair, and it's a request, road traffic orders, the RTOs. If we are going to look at those, can I ask for it to be included, road traffic orders about zigzags outside schools? Isn't strictly car parking, but if we're going through the
I will get
for
somebody
that,
to look at.
yeah, because a lot of them have been faced with no traffic orders, so they're not enforceable. And I think the zigzags and the no parking outside schools need to.
Yes.
Okay.
I'll do that.
Right, so we've got a report in front of us. This is a policy report about how we go forward, and it does talk about the alternative payment options, and that's one of the things I think we really need to be looking at as we go forward. But is everyone happy with the report? Can we have a show of hands, because this is slightly controversial? Yeah, no, that's clearly carried. Right, thank you. Right, we move on. Early help family pubs. Councillor Parsons.
Thank you, Leader. This is quite a long report, but actually with a very straightforward message about early help. And unlike some local government services these days, early help is pretty much what it says on the tin. It's not difficult to understand the policy. It's the old-fashioned concept of a stitch in time saving 9. It will save Shropshire Council money over the next few years if all the proposals in this report are approved, but more important, actually it will help keep Shropshire children and their families happy, safe and healthy in the long term, so that fewer of our children get pulled into what has to be an expensive and sometimes very unwelcome intervention by services. So early help is good for Shropshire Council's finances, and I make no apology for that. I think it's a very welcome thing to see, but vitally it's going to help reduce the number of children who have to come into care and into the other services. Our tally of looked after children has grown by about 10% in the last few months. It's now about 330, it used to be about 300 at any one time. And that's a very significant item so far as the director's concerned and I'm concerned. No one wants to see children coming into care, and I am absolutely sure that every single child that's brought up here, all the other options are looked at first. This report is suggesting a much more focused approach than we've adopted in the past, and I believe that if after consultation the proposals are approved, it will make a real difference. Can I mention the Task and Finish group, which sat on a number of occasions in the run-up to Christmas? It was set up by the People Overview Committee, and it looked at these proposals very carefully. I'm most grateful to all the members of that group, and I think Chris was here, but there were others who were on the group. They've done a very thorough job indeed. They recommend to Cabinet the new way of working that this report is proposing, as I do, and I move the recommendation in paragraph 2.1, which is to go out to consultation. We need to consult users and potential users on these proposals. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you. Councillor Madge Shanton wanted to comment, so.
Just to say, Chairman, that I fully support this. Well, all I ask is that because there's work going on, particularly with Future Pro and midwifery services, etc., that we do pull all the strands together. I know that you'll say, well, it's going out to consultation and they can make comment, but I do feel that we need to sometimes be proactive. I'm sitting on Task and Finish next door, which I must go to. And we've got that problem there, which is the help for children in the group that we're dealing with at the moment. And that's all I ask, is that you bring all these strands together, because it's really important. A, it's better for the families, less confusion, and B, at the end of the day, it's got to be more cost effective. That's how I see it. Thank you, Chair.
I totally agree. The more we can get all the social services working in one place, it's got to be better for the community.
Absolutely, I fully support it. Thank you.
Okay, any other comments? It's a pretty straightforward report.
I second.
Yeah, and that's seconded. Right, all those in favour? Yeah, that's right. Thank you very much. Item 10 is exclusion of the public and press.